Hey, could you step up a bit with the housework? My husband greeted me with a frown as I walked through the door after a long day at work. I'm sorry, I sighed, feeling the weight of exhaustion settling in my bones. I've been swamped lately. I promise it's just a phase. Bear with me a little longer. Between the constant overtime and deadlines, I barely have a moment to spare for chores. I've been squeezing in laundry whenever I can, and the vacuuming. Well, I managed to give the living room a quick once-over in the mornings, but it's tough to tackle much else late at night. And meals. It's mostly been meal prep or takeout. I know I'm dropping the ball on the home front, and it's eating away at me. My name's Michelle. At 29, I'm navigating the grind of office life. Jake, my husband, unexpectedly popped back into my life about 3 years ago. We were classmates in middle school, but it wasn't until a chance encounter at a cafe that we reconnected. Small towns have a funny way of bringing people together, and there he was, sitting at a table adjacent to mine, like a scene ripped from a comic book. I couldn't help but wonder if it was fate. Although we swapped contact details then, our conversations remained sparse. It wasn't until a school reunion that our connection blossomed, spurred on by the encouragement of our friends. Jake and I had always clicked, so when he proposed a year into our relationship, I accepted almost instinctively. Perhaps it was the weight of societal expectations in our small town where early marriage was the norm that nudged me towards a quicker decision. Don't get me wrong, I do love Jake. But looking back, I wish I had paused to truly understand him better. Jake, having lived with his parents his whole life, is practically clueless when it comes to housework. Having lived independently before, I have my own routines and preferences, so I find myself preferring to tackle chores alone rather than dealing with half-hearted attempts at assistance. I'd assigned Jake the simple tasks of taking out the trash and cleaning the bathroom, while I handle the rest. About a month ago, my workload at the office kicked into overdrive with a flurry of overtime hours. To add to the chaos, a colleague recently embarked on maternity leave, dumping even more responsibilities on my plate. With my focus consumed by work, I found myself with less and less time for household chores, much to Jake's evident irritation. And then, finally, his frustration boiled over. Arriving home bone-tired, I was met with a barrage of complaints. Michelle, this is getting ridiculous. I need this outfit for tomorrow, and it's still unwashed. It's a simple task, just toss it in the washer and hang it out to dry. Why is that so hard? I hadn't managed to get to the laundry yesterday due to a late return home, and the morning rush left no room for it either. And yet another night of takeout, he lamented as I walked through the door. I work late again, and this is what I come home to. I'm sorry, but Jake wasn't about to simmer down. I mean, come on, I'm exhausted too when I get back, and this is what I get. He sighed heavily, his frustration palpable. His words ignited a fire within me. Excuse me, then why not lend a hand with the chores? If it's as simple as tossing clothes in the washer and hanging them out to dry, why not take some initiative? And dinner once in a while wouldn't hurt, would it? It's not like you're the sole provider here. We split the bills, and I'm shouldering all the chores you can't be bothered with, so enough with the complaints. As the words tumbled out, I felt a weight lift off my chest, even if just momentarily. But predictably, Jake didn't share my sense of liberation. Is that how a wife should speak? His comment reignited my fury. What do you mean? I'd gladly take on those responsibilities if I were a stay-at-home wife. But if I quit my job, could we really survive on your salary alone? We agreed not to take that route when we tied the knot, remember? And didn't we also agree to support each other during hectic times? With those cutting words, Jake dropped a bombshell. Oh, classic Michelle. If you're so dedicated to your career, why not focus on that alone? A woman's place is in the home, unlike you, Michelle. My girlfriend, on the other hand, is a domestic goddess. She keeps the house immaculate whenever I'm around, and she even whipped up a homemade cake last time. Stunned, I could barely process his words. Wait, girlfriend? Who are you talking about? An old flame, or are you cheating? My heart raced with a mix of emotions as Jake smirked. You've aged, Michelle. She's stunning, and to top it off, she's the daughter of the CEO. Her parents fully support our relationship and even floated the idea of me taking over as CEO. Then, shockingly, Jake slid divorce papers across the table. That's why you need to fill these out. I'll be leaving tomorrow. Caught off guard, I struggled to comprehend. Hold on, Jake. Are you saying you're having an affair and divorcing me to marry your mistress? With a mocking grin, Jake nodded. That's the gist of it. I'll even offer whatever settlement you desire. After all, I'm the future CEO. And with that, he left, leaving me in a whirlwind of disbelief. Do you really expect me to just roll over and sign these papers? I shot back, but Jake seemed unmoved. So you're content living like this? In a relationship with someone who's lost all affection for you, or you're left handling all the chores? I faltered, words escaping me. As much as I hated to admit it, he had a point. Our loveless partnership was nothing but a source of constant tension. After much contemplation, I reached a point where I couldn't bear to dwell on it any longer. My response came out stoically, fine, but I'll initiate the divorce proceedings once I've sorted out the logistics like asset division and alimony. Work's consuming all my time right now, so you'll have to be patient. Jake, visibly frustrated, muttered, yeah, always prioritizing work. With that, he left the living room, disappearing into the bedroom. As time trickled by and work gradually eased its grip, I took the initiative to seek legal counsel through a friend's recommendation. The divorce lawyer attentively absorbed my account, and together we strategized to demand a higher alimony than the norm. I had braced myself for a back and forth with Jake over the alimony, but to my surprise, he agreed to the amount without hesitation. Could it really be true that he's being considered for the next CEO? A twinge of regret flitted through me, but I pushed it aside. If I'm getting a decent sum, maybe I should treat myself to a solo vacation and recharge. As the weeks slipped by since Jake's departure and work began to stabilize, the final negotiations for alimony concluded. The once lively apartment now felt eerily empty. It's time for a change, I resolved. There's no reason to linger here. It's too spacious for just one person and feels like an echo chamber. Thankfully, I now have the flexibility to take time off work, so I seized the opportunity to hunt for a new place. Heading to a real estate agent, I swiftly signed a lease for an apartment closer to my office. A week later, I relocated. Since the apartment was in Jake's name, I had to inform him about the move. Almost immediately, he called. Do you honestly think leaving our apartment filled with memories is the right decision? Isn't it lonely living in a strange place all by yourself? You haven't forgotten about us, have you? Maybe it's better to dwell in the past. His arrogance dripped from every word, condescending and dismissive. With each passing day, his attitude only fueled my anger. I realized I no longer harbored any affection for Jake. No matter how many times I tried to communicate that I had moved on, Jake persisted with his conceited remarks like stop pretending or don't act tough. Fed up with the conversation, I asserted firmly, could you please settle the alimony soon? Once that's done, I can proceed with filing the divorce papers. Yeah, got it. I'll settle it within the week, so go ahead and prepare those divorce papers. My girlfriend's parents insist we only live together once we're officially married, hence the hotel stay. Quit my job too. Just taking a breather for now, I guess. It seemed Jake had made the decision to leave his job in preparation for this career shift. Then he drops the bomb about submitting the marriage license, planning a lavish wedding, and moving into his mistress's father's mansion to start their newlywed life. He's in a rush to get that license submitted, claims the families have already met, but something about it all feels fishy. Jake's parents are usually sensible people, so it's strange they'd entertain the idea of a second marriage before the divorce is even finalized. I pressed Jake for clarity, but his response remained elusive, leaving the truth shrouded in uncertainty. Well, perhaps Jake's parents were more eager for his remarriage to a president's daughter than even I realized. I thought I had cultivated a decent rapport with my in-laws, so this revelation was quite disheartening. But it's irrelevant now. I informed him, I'll reach out once I've filed the divorce papers, and promptly ended the call. A few days later, armed with the alimony, I filed for divorce. And with that, my connection to Jake was severed. When I reached out to him, his response was a flustered, got it. Judging from his recent demeanor, it seemed likely that Jake would be remarrying soon. Seeking a change of scenery the next day, I decided to go shopping at the mall. To my surprise, I encountered Jake there. As I strolled through the bustling corridors, a voice called out to me from ahead. Michelle, aging already, looking like an old hag, aren't you? Startled, I glanced up to see Jake standing there. This mall was the same one where Jake and I had reunited, where the movie theater was located. I cursed my luck. Jake departed with a sneer, announcing, guess what? Today, I tied the knot with Olivia, the president's daughter. Unlike you, she's stunning and the perfect wife. No sooner had he uttered these words, a woman with shopping bags drew near. Jake, so this is the infamous president's daughter. She was undeniably beautiful, and as I pondered her name, a sense of familiarity struck me. Our eyes met, and she seemed equally taken aback. Could it be? While I observed her, Jake, completely oblivious, kept on talking. Olivia's family owns the company, in case you didn't know. Paying no heed to Olivia's subtle urging to leave, Jake proceeded to enlighten me about her family. I'm set to become the next CEO of their company. Pretty unbelievable, right? At that moment, I couldn't contain my laughter. Jake stared at me blankly, while Olivia avoided meeting my gaze. So you've already remarried, huh? Good for you. She's quite the catch. Doesn't seem like we're the same age at all. As the words left my lips, Jake appeared puzzled. Understandable, since I had just commented on the age of his new wife without any prompting from him. I couldn't help but continue laughing. My condolences. With that, I turned away from Jake and started walking. But despite Olivia's efforts to hold him back, Jake hurried after me. Michelle, what's going on? You seem to know her. I explained that we both attended the same high school. We were classmates. Though, you wouldn't recognize her just by looking at her face. Jake was taken aback. It's great you found yourself such a beautiful wife. But then again, she ought to be, considering the amount of money she's spent on plastic surgery. As it turned out, Olivia and I were classmates in high school. At first, her face didn't ring any bells, but when Jake started discussing Olivia's family, it all clicked into place. I'd never been fond of Olivia. She had a knack for flaunting her wealth. Back in school, I had a bit of a reputation thanks to my achievements in the sports club, and it seemed Olivia didn't appreciate that. She used to taunt me, claiming I lacked femininity because of my involvement in sports, among other things. Olivia had a habit of putting others down, which earned her the disdain of many of our classmates. During our recent class reunion, Olivia's absence didn't stop her from being the hot topic. Word had it she underwent plastic surgery to address her facial insecurities and had since become a fixture on the party circuit. Remember the girl Jay referred to as ugly when he saw in a graduation album? I distinctly recall informing him that she was the CEO's daughter. At that memory, Jake's complexion turned ashen. I wouldn't trade it for all the money in the world, he had scoffed. As the memory flooded back to Jake, his face flushed crimson, and he rounded on Olivia, bellowing, "Have you been deceiving me this whole time?" A heated argument erupted between Jake and Olivia. Amidst their shouting match, it became apparent that they had crossed paths at one of these parties, and Olivia had been completely smitten with Jake. With a brazen display of audacity, Olivia shot back, "I didn't lie. I just didn't volunteer the information because you never asked." Jake seemed on the brink of exploding in fury, but Olivia cut him off. "I've been patiently waiting for you to end things with Michelle, your current girlfriend. Besides, it's not exactly subtle that I'll eventually join my father's company. I could even reside in a luxurious apartment. But none of that matters now. What's truly shocking is finding out that Michelle is your girlfriend. Small world, huh?" A sense of unease crept over me. "Hold on, does Olivia not realize you're divorced?" Jake attempted to hush me, but I disclosed that I had been married to Jake and had just initiated divorce proceedings the day prior. Olivia was rendered speechless. Pressing on, I added, "In fact, I spoke with Jake's mother yesterday to inform her of the divorce. She insisted she had no knowledge of any remarriage, let alone any meeting with Olivia's parents. Initially, I had contemplated identifying Jake's mistress and seeking compensation from her. However, since Jake had agreed to a settlement higher than the market rate, I hadn't bothered pursuing his affair further, but to discover he was concealing his marital status. That's marital fraud, isn't it?" Their faces drained of color, and they exchanged tense words, but I decided it was time for me to exit the scene. A few days later, I received a message from Olivia through one of our classmates. "Please keep this between us," she pleaded, along with a sum of money she labeled as compensation for my troubles. It felt more like hush money, but truth be told, I had no intention of spreading the word. And getting paid for my silence was an unexpected perk. During our conversation, Olivia vented her frustrations about Jake. It seemed the parents Jake had presented for the meet and greet weren't actually his biological parents. They had been hired from a family rental service. I was taken aback by the existence of such a service, but it left me pondering whether Jake's intentions were genuinely directed towards Olivia, or if he was merely after the CEO position. Though Olivia was in love with Jake, it was unclear if Jake was genuinely attracted to Olivia or just enticed by her looks and status. After beginning their marital life, Olivia quickly revealed she couldn't handle any household chores. In his frustration, Jake discovered that her clean house and homemade cakes had all been the work of a housemaid. Their marriage fell apart almost instantly, and Olivia filed for divorce, suing Jake for marital fraud. Despite the hush money, Olivia let everything slip, enraging her father. Rumor had it that Jake was struggling to remain in town. He had moved into a cheap apartment and was working tirelessly, nearing his breaking point. Desperate, he asked me to return the divorce settlement. My response was curt, "You must be joking. I have no intention of helping you. Don't contact me again." And I hung up. Since then, I took advantage of my accumulated leave for a much-needed recharge. I traveled solo, embraced new experiences, and had some wonderful encounters. I have a feeling that the future holds exciting